there, it's Kevin with the Rogue Market here with a Ultimate Masters overview of the EDH cards that are included over $10, so rares and mythic. Did you miss me? I'm back with another market video, and this channel isn't going anywhere. Just had a little bit of a hiatus due to the holiday season. I'll be hitting this hard come January. We'll get back in the swing of things with the Rogue Roundup and the Market Monday recap. This is basically a Market Monday recap for the topic that I was talking about with Ultimate Masters about how cards are going to be affected. If you've been following the Rogue Deck Builder channel or even this channel, you know that I have traditionally been more of an EDH guy than a modern or legacy or even standard. And when I say that, I mean in terms of investments rather than in terms of playing. I play probably more standard than I play any format as it's fresh. And as a brewer, I like to brew new decks. So of course, standard is my cup of tea. So when standard is good, I tend to be there. But one of the biggest mistakes I made early on in my finance, can we call it a career, hobby, whatever you want to call it, is I ignored EDH because I personally didn't play it and personally didn't like it. However, I've kind of shifted both of those stances. I do play a fair amount of EDH, and I actually follow EDH trends like there's no tomorrow, because I think they're more of the price trajectories that I like. They have this slow, steady. You never see these massive buyouts or price spikes unless there's a new commander that is spoiled and the cards go with those particular commanders. But for the more of the staple-based cards, or the cards that start to see a lot of play or pair nicely with a new card that's out of a new set, oftentimes you have the regular supply meets demand, or demand starts outstretching the supply, and you see those little penny increases per day, and those start to add up after a month, 2 months. Those little increases, and those are the type of cards I definitely like to watch. So again, I try to choose a lot of EDH cards for my market specs. I do at least one for the Rogue Roundup, and I also like to find ones that have a bit of crossover with other formats. I think those are the premier ones. So for this particular video, we are going to review all of the EDH cards. So I'm not going to show modern cards or legacy cards, even if there is a little bit of crossover there. These are the specific reprints that were from EDH, and analyze exactly where they sit, where I think they're going to go, and then you can make an informed decision on where you should start investing in these cards, because I think these are the highlights from these particular sets. If you actually go back to some of the modern Masters sets, some of the best increases were EDH cards. Looking at you, Cyclonic Rift, Elish Norn. I get it, Elish Norn does see play in some modern, but it's just a slim margin compared to how much it sees play in EDH. So those are the cards I like to target. So we're kind of looking for like what might happen to the Cyclonic Rift if some of these cards lose 60-70% of their value, which I do expect some of them. These are the best ones at recouping. I actually am under the mindset that modern can't really recoup that well, as some of them now had triple printings in Modern Masters or in other products that have come out recently, and I think this is going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back for something like Tarmogoyf. This is the third time in a Master set, no, fourth? It's been printed every time the Master set that Tarmogoyf has. So, yeah, I think this is definitely is the straw that breaks the camel's back for that one, and very other similar cards. So again, this video is specifically focused on EDH, and I've got them ranked right now as far as how many decks they actually see play in, and that's quite surprising. Now, I think that this set's also going to have a bit of a education factor, I guess is the best way to call that. Sometimes with EDH, the cards start to see more play just because people find out about them. They never even knew that something like Phyrexian Altar exists, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, Phyrexian Altar can be literally put in any deck that wants to kill a creature. So, Marin decks might be pretty familiar with it, but I actually looking at Phyrexian Altar, that card seems criminally underplayed with how powerful it is and how it enables so many combos in the Commander format. So I'm thinking that this being showcased more is going to actually lead to more people playing the cards in their deck. And you might see all of these cards across the board have that sort of factor. Okay, so anyway, let's start off with the most played card in EDH. This is Mana Vault. Mana Vault has a lot of room to go down. It is currently overinflated. The Mana Vault, let me try to pull up some prices here for the good old goldfish, and then we will see what's at currently. I apologize for not being ready here for this. So some of them won't be on here because they're brand new too, but we're going to go to Ultimate Masters, and let's go ahead and look at the total set price of Ultimate Masters, and we can find the Mana Vault here. All right, so Mana Vault is currently being sold at the Now I have to do the find function. Mana Vault. Okay, so it's currently going for $40. So that is definitely something that is very, very overinflated compared to its current value at the moment. So I think that this has to meet exactly where the Mana Vault is currently going for TCG player. $15.99. It's been a card that has creeped up in price in the past. This was a card that I remember picking these up not too long ago for really, really cheap. You can see it was in the Kaladesh Inventions. It's actually one of the more expensive Kaladesh inventions. But you have the 3rd edition card. Okay, got all the way up to $28. But this is a recent spike. I mean, I think that this was going to come back down to earth. It looked like it started to in Dominaria, had a little bit of spike again. And so I'd say the real world value is, yeah, probably around this $25, $26 before the reprint. And so most of these cards will get like hit pretty hard when they get reprinted. If you follow this trajectory right here, in a couple months, it probably would have been worth 30. By the end of the next year, probably would have been worth 35, and that gives you an idea of what exactly this reprint. So I'm thinking this one probably goes down to the they've got it being pre-sold right now on TCG Player, for $16. That's probably that's very reasonable to be picking up the Mana Vault. Looks like there is I don't know where it's getting this information from. I wonder if it has a different metric that it's running at. Maybe we can't use this for the sake of the video. But it does say TC Player, about $16. Even Card Kingdom has lowered their Mana Vaults all the way down to $28. And if you compare it to its pre-sale price, of course, something has to give. There's no way that this can be 40% more on the pre-sale, so that's something that will definitely go down. However, we're actually looking at EDH. This is the #1 card specifically for EDH. It literally can go in every deck. I'm under the camp that I would like to ban the fast mana artifacts or the rocks like Soul Ring, Mana Vault, Mana Crypt. Probably Soul Ring will never be banned, but I think the Mana Vault and Mana Crypt should definitely go because they lead to too quick of commander games. However, they've been a staple for a long time. I have a Mana Vault in literally every commander deck. It's that good. I think it's like 1 or 2 decks that don't run it that are trying to be more of a don't care about fast mana. But that's the exception rather than the rule to a commander. So Mana Vault, this is a card that if this does for whatever reason crash, you should definitely invest in it under the $15 point. I have a hard time seeing it actually going down that far. It should easily meet where the current revised edition Mana Vault is, and then at least go down even more. So I'm thinking, 20 is more likely for Mana Vault. Could go down even more. Let's go on to the #2 card that is played in EDH at the moment. This is Ancient Tomb. I actually am surprised that Ancient Tomb doesn't see even more decks than this currently has down, because again, this card is just phenomenal in a format where your starting life total is 40. You can lead to some very busted draws with Ancient Tombs. Talk about getting like another, like a Signet out on turn #1 with an Ancient Tomb. That's a pretty good play, and then having even more mana on the next turn to cast basically your commander or a very powerful 4 or 5 drop at that point. So Ancient Tomb is a card that is currently, looks like TCG got all the way to 35. Let's see what it's going for. Ancient Tomb is 42. The trajectory from Ancient Tomb from its Tempest printing was definitely going down already. So it looked like this price spike between Masters 25 and Dominaria had a little bit of price adjustment to do. And you can probably say that the true value price is about 40, I would say about 43. Yeah, if you follow this kind of trajectory here, and would have continued to have this, what does that look like? About $3 per set? Yeah, $2 to $3 per set is what the Ancient Tomb seemed to be increasing. So that was a nice, good trajectory with the Ancient Tomb. You can see that it, really started going up after Eternal Masters, and it's this is the time period where EDH just took off. So this is another card that, for whatever reason, it goes way down. I don't think so. I think this is the rare next to Noble Hierarch that has the best chance of holding its price. The rest of the rares, I think, have a lot harder time, especially if they're modern exclusive like Gaddock Teague. I think those are the cards that are going to get hit the most with the reprint. But Ancient Tomb's one that I do like if for whatever reason it does go down. I think this one's actually going to hold a little bit better than Mana Crypt long term, just because I think the supply is a little bit less, as there was a lot of printings of Mana Crypt from Revised and 4th edition back in the day. So this one, again, if it goes below $20, I think is probably a pretty good time to get into Ancient Tomb for long term. If we go to the Demonic Tutor, this is actually, there we go. This is the card that sees the most play. I don't know how it got out of ordered here. Demonic Tutor is the most played card. This does have a lot of printings, and it was, I believe, an uncommon in Revised, and has some box set printings of, I believe, Liliana or Demonic versus Angels, or Angels versus Demons, or whatever the box set for that Demonic Tutor is seen. We'll just check it here for the Demonic Tutor. Demonic Tutor is currently going for $41.50 and dropping. Yes, it was in the dual deck Divine versus Demonic, as well as it was, it looks like just 3rd edition as a common, but it did have that anthology printing as well as a Judge promo. So it's got some decent amount of supply out there. If you actually look at the 3rd edition, kind of what it was doing, had that really aggressive trajectory. Didn't seem to ever have a price spike. This seems to be all very organic growth. Leveled off here, but this is typical. This entire period of Magic the Gathering was pretty quiet. We're talking across the board from M19 to Guilds of Ravnica. This is a very quiet time period for the singles market in Magic the Gathering. And a staple like Demonic Tutor, one that has been consistently going up, it definitely tells me that across the board. So it has already decreased all the way from 40 down to 35. This card is a rare, and I think it's actually going to be one of the rares too. The Holy Trinity here, Demonic Tutor, Ancient Tomb, and the Mana Crypt, I think, are the best ones to hold the most value. We're talking about 30 to 40% drop, and then it might be the best investable time to get back in to this Demonic Tutor. All right, so this is where it really starts to fall off. Now we have all the way down to Machias, the Unhallowed. Machias is a very staple card. Let's see what commanders it's been using in, because if it has Marin, yeah, so it's used mainly in Marin. So this Marin and Marquesa, these are very popular commanders to throw in the mix, but it also does skew the data a little bit because, again, they're very popular decks. So it looks like it's being played in, I think, about almost 50% of Marin decks. I believe there's 2,000 out there. And again, the Marquesa, it sees play a lot in because it's super good with Marquesa. Of course, it's in a lot of the zombie tribal type decks, as you can get it at. It is a zombie cleric. This is a card that had a slow increase at first, but then really sped up as the supply was outstretched by the demand. Currently, the Machias is already taking a hit, it looks like. Yeah, it's all the way down to $20 already. And the Dark Ascension one has fallen quite significantly from the $30. So you can see it also hit its high around this time period of Core 19 to Guilds of Ravnica, and it's already dropped off about almost $6, I would say. And this is continuing to meet the other price. This is one where the Ultimate Masters version is actually less than the Dark Ascension version. This will continue to go down. Dark Ascension does have a pretty decent amount of supply. It's right before the kind of the new order of Magic where they printed to demand. So Innistrad and Dark Ascension are sets that you can't find in box sets. So they're not at the Return to Ravnica level of printings, but this was a relatively high print run comparatively to sets before that. So like anything like Innistrad had a lot more than Scars of Mirrodin, which had a lot more than Zendikar. Like all of those were so significantly higher prints than the one before. So anything before Zendikar, that's what we kind of say is the low supply area of modern Magic the Gathering. And of course, if you even go back further, Legacy probably has even less supply for specific sets. So Machias, I think, is going to get hit very hard. I think it's going to go the way of something like the Shieldred and some of those Praetors. It sees about the same amount of play as those type of Praetors. Let's actually compare it to Shieldred. See where Shieldred. They're both considered very staples in the Commander. Yeah, so actually Shieldred has a lot more play and was from a set before the Dark Ascension, so the supply is actually lower for Shieldred compared to Machias, in my opinion. It has about twice the amount of play, and this one went all the way down to $12. This is a set that is definitely more popular than the ultimate or the Iconic Masters. So I think there's gonna be more supply that gets injected in the system quicker because we still have massive amounts of boxes of Iconic just that are rotting on shelves at the moment, and so we haven't even seen the full impact of Iconic Masters quite yet. And therefore, I think my case is going to crash very hard. But if it goes below the $10 mark, if we're looking at the 876, which I believe that's what happened to Shieldred. So let's look at Shieldred right here. and see what happened to Shieldred, the Whispering one. I believe this one had a good recovery from Iconic Masters. Nope, it went all the way down to 9 and then came back to this 14. We had, again, this flat time in Magic the Gathering investment, but all the way from 9 to 14 is a pretty good little increase from its bottom. So yeah, I think that we can take that as a pretty good judgment of where Machias is going to go. So I do like that one. If an investment, especially if it's below 5, then you should absolutely pull the trigger on Machias. All right, so that brings us to Kozilek, Butcher of Truth, is the next kind of EDH staple. This one is now have its third printing. I think this is one that is going to get temporarily hit hard if we actually look over at Kozilek and see what it did in the Modern Masters 2 and see how well the price was affected. It went all the way down to about $20, and this was July of 2015, so let's see what it was before it had the reprinting. Yeah, here it looks like the Modern Masters are all the way up to 50, so it lost over half its value the last time it was reprinted, and then gained back, had a double up from this time period. But again, this is just going to be a lot more. Already seem to be price correcting from the little spike here we had. This was a crazy time for Magic singles investment. It seems like everyone and their mother thought that they were MTG finance gurus, from Rivals of Ixalan all the way to Dominaria. You see all the massive price spikes at that time period. And I think we're having a lot of market correction when people are just finally, I'm done with MTG finance and selling back into it. So a little bit of price correction here from 42 to about the $38 mark before it was spoiled. And yeah, that's still a good sign for Kozilek, because I think it also has a lot of casual appeal. You're going to see this beyond EDH decks. You're going to see this in the, like, look at my big Eldrazi deck. So that's what the Kozilek Butcher of Truth has going for it. But the same can be said with this set. If this was one of the cards that fell the most, which it probably did, from the Modern Masters 2, from more than a 50%, we're going to expect the exact same thing from this Kozilek. So this could easily be below the $20 mark. I wouldn't really start pulling the trigger on this one unless it really gets down to 15, 12, around that range. And if not, you probably have time. This will probably stay flat for quite some time, where then you can find some good deals. Think Elish Norn. Like, I was picking up Elish Norn for way cheaper than even the market price after this one was in Iconic Masters. Yeah, this one went all the way down to 12. I believe I was picking these up for 5. And same with Avacyn. It's another card that you'd think it's a very, very, so let's see, view as a card to see what Elish Norn. Yeah, that's almost, it's very similar numbers. And then Avacyn was another one that I've been picking up for super, super cheap. That I believe, sees more play than Kozilek as well, and was picking these cards up no problem for even cheaper. So I think you're going to find some very, very good deals for the Kozilek, and I mean, these are good comparisons with like Avacyn and Shieldred to exactly see how the market fell with that. So I definitely think that Kozilek is going to get hit hard as one of the mythics. Same thing with Ulamog. There's not much to talk about with Ulamog. Ulamog even sees less play than Kozilek. And I think this started to get outshined a lot because of Ulamog, the Ceaseless Hunger. It's just a better commander card most of the time. I actually prefer, I prefer this one because the Annihilator 4 seems to be a little bit more potent than the Mill. But, I mean, they both do a similar role in Commander, so anything with big mana. We're talking about Rakdos, Animar. Those type of decks tend to love cards like Ulamog, and of course, the more they print of this, the merrier. So Ulamog Ceaseless Hunger does not outshine Ulamog the Infinite Gyre, but there are definitely some times where people did just strictly replace it. So it's a card that did get hit very, very tough. The thing about Ulamog, though, is I believe it does see some modern play. I think that one did get outshifted by Ulamog, the Ceaseless Hunger, though, because Ulamog used to see play in the and I think getting rid of the Eldrazi land was another hurt for that particular card. So I think that it's going to be very similar to the Kozilek. This one's going to get hit hard. It's already down to 25. The last time it was printed in Modern Masters 2, it had a started off at about 36, went all the way down to 15. So again, it lost more than 50% of its value. I think this is going to be a bigger hit than Modern Masters 2. So it got all the way up to, so here's the Modern Masters. Yeah, it got all the way up to 40 and went all the way down to 17 before it started to increase. Had a good increase again, though, but again, the second time these printings happen, this tends to hurt even worse because it's even less faith in the investment, and there's just more copies going around. It's just not nearly as rare. Modern Masters 2 is a quite large print run. There are plenty of these out here. Got to think of how many are being ditched just because of the people having them in their trade binders and their cases and things like that. All right, so that's my analysis of an Ulamog. This is another one I think you can get in for pretty cheap. It's a good one. All of these cards are still very, very good long-term investments for years to come, but I'm thinking this is going to take a while for these to flatline out and begin to recover. Okay, so now we have the next one being All Is Dust. This is actually one of the better crossover cards. It sees play in Legacy, it sees play in Modern, and it sees a fair amount of play in EDH. The price is way overinflated, though, because this is going to be the card that gets hit really, really hard. I think this is very similar to what happened in Iconic Masters with the Oblivion Stone. This was a card that was really, really expensive, and then when it came back out in Modern Masters, it got completely crushed. So if we actually look what the Mirrodin was before the Iconic Masters, it went all the way down from $20. It was already starting to go down because Tron was on the out, but it still hasn't even found its bottom from Iconic Masters. I mean, it's still staying really, really, really stubborn at this $6. And it's not like it's not seeing play. If we actually look at this mono blue Tron, or mono green Tron, which also runs an All of Dust, this one runs actually 3 times more Oblivion Stones. And again, Oblivion Stone sees, let's check it out in EDH where Oblivion Stone is, and just kind of compare it, see if it actually has more than All Is Dust. 6,000 versus 9,000, so it does seem like the All Is Dust is a little more of a staple than the Oblivion Stone. So at least it's got that going for it, but I think the trade-off is it has less play in Modern than Oblivion Stone does. So I think that All of Dust is something that is probably going to go way down. So I wouldn't really be targeting these until it's down below the $6 mark or $5 or $7 mark, and then try to be aggressive even on that after the fact, because this is one of the cards where there's just so much jam-packed value in the set that a lot of these cards, there's a lot of value to be lost, and I think All Is Dust is one of those cards that is going to lose a lot of value, but definitely keep your eye on it because it is a staple in 2 formats. That brings us to Fauna Shaman. Very similar to the All Is Dust, Fauna Shaman, it goes in a variety of decks. Marin, I believe, is the number 1 deck it's played in. Let's see if I'm right. Yep, it is Marin, followed by Carador and Animar. I actually am not the biggest fan of it in Animar because you don't want to be running mana for anything in Animar. Animar just wants to be casting whatever is in his hand and doesn't want to be using mana to go find stuff to cast. That's my opinion, but I guess it could be pretty good in Animar. I personally... Anyway, I'm getting off topic here. Fauna Shaman, though, does go in a few Modern decks here and there. The problem is it's very easy to remove, and it requires an entire untap before it gets rid of Summoning Sickness for it to be able to use its ability. However, this is a card that, again, is just overinflated to where it's going to go. See Oblivion Stone, see a lot of those type of cards. I think this is $5-6 mark, and then you can start investing in it. Let's look at where Fauna Shaman is it currently. According to this price, we are way far down before we find Fauna Shaman already at the $10 mark. It was I only had 1 printing. I thought I had more printings than 1 in M11, so the supply is not that great. It saw some price adjustment after Battle Bond again. This was a recent from Ixalan all the way up to the 13, 10. It's had some price spikes before. Yeah, this is gonna be under $5 card when all settles, all is dust with the Ultimate Masters. Then we're going to go on to Baleful Dragon. This is where it's starting to really drop off. And the thing with Baleful Dragon is it already got its dragon printing. It also got a double dragon printing with Kali the Vast in the Commander Anthologies and the Sign of the Ur-Dragon with the Ur-Dragon deck. And so I don't know if there's a lot of room for Baleful Dragon. It does go in a fair amount of other Commander decks. You can see that it still mainly is Dragon Tribal that runs it with a Maelstrom Wanderer. Yeah, these still seem like, a lot of... I'm surprised it's actually not in the Felden. Is this the one whenever a dragon attacks? So no, this is the good one. It deals combat damage to player, deals that much damage to each creature that player controls. So, fair amount of play. It is a mythic, though, so it can definitely hold its price a lot better. However, I think this is going to be one of the mythics that if we go back over to the Iconic Masters, you can see things that completely... mythics that completely had probably as much play. Urbrass Hidden, that really reminds me of Urbrass Hidden. Let's see which one actually sees more play. Urbrask versus something. Okay, let's see here. Apologize for the... Usually on Rogue Market, I want to be more highly edited videos. I just don't have the time at the moment. I apologize for this. So we have 8,031 decks. We have Air 404. We have the 6,000. Yeah, so they're reasonably around the same, I would say. I'd actually say the Urbrask has a lot more potential to be put in decks, as there are many commanders, upcoming commanders that probably do want that creatures you control have haste ability. So I think this is going to be definitely a mythic that goes down to the $4 or $5 mark after its printing. All right, so now we're down to what I talked about, Phyrexian Altar. This is so surprising that cards like Urbrask the Hidden and Fauna Shaman have more play than Phyrexian Altar. This is a card, though, because of its low supply from invasions, just continue to creep up, 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 up. I remember when the first time I bought Phyrexian Altar, it was a $15 card. The second time I bought one for a second deck, it was a $30 card. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to start switching sleeves with this card before purchasing another. But again, this isn't a lot of from an invasion 6,081 decks. This isn't anything too special. Again, I believe this will be Marin that will be the number. Ooh, Prosh. So Prosh is actually playing this more than Marin. This is crazy because I think this is a deck that definitely wants it. Of course, Teysa is just completely busted with Teysa. Same thing with Marquesa. I don't know why you'd build a Marquesa deck without Phyrexian Altar. So what I'm thinking with this, though, is when the price actually does come down from this card, this is a card that a lot of people are going to pick up and put in the decks. So this one I think will get hit hard, though. It might have some price memory because it did recently hit that high price tag. However, I think that price tag was already starting to come down. Let's see what was going on with Phyrexian Altar. I believe it was a more recent price spike with the that same time period it looks like. So the Rivals of Ixalan spike was already starting to price adjust. We were down to like 56-ish before it was spoiled, and then it really actually was just spoiled recently. So so it was 55. It was already on its way down, and to try to hit where this should have been, which in my opinion would be around the $43 mark, is where it should be about right now if you actually follow this trajectory. So from Ixalan to Rivals, well, let's go from halfway point. So from Ixalan to about Rivals of Ixalan, or from Dom, that's like a $3 mark price, so it's a 10% increase. So we can reasonably expect this should have went up about $4 more. So but 42 was probably its real world price to begin with. Ultimate Masters already has it at 42. I can expect at least a 50% decrease in this, especially since it's a rare. You're looking at under $20 for it. I think price memory might serve this in the short term. This one might get hit the hardest. As you can see, it doesn't see that much play in EDH. But if it does become cheap, I think this card is just an automatic pickup for a lot of people that are now like, hey, this can go in this deck. This card can literally be thrown in any deck. Well, any creature-based deck in EDH and be a good option for it. Alrighty, so that leaves us now to where we're kind of scraping with some cards that actually have way too much value comparatively how much to see play. Eldrazi Conscription meets the bill. This is going to be your $2, $3 card. 4,872 decks is not something to get excited about in Commander, maybe because it had such a high price tag, but this is one of those cards that saw a little bit of play, but had low supply and just crept up and crept up and crept up and crept up and crept up. However, Bruna, Narset, Rafik, it's just not enough to push this card. Eldrazi Conscription, yes, it's a very it's one of those cards that could spike up if like an Aura commander is printed and it's like, okay, this goes great in this deck. However, this is the one that's definitely going to crush. I'm thinking $2 to $3 is where one's going to go down. If for whatever reason it even continues to go down even more, this is like your little sleeper pick that people will, price memory will then memorize the new price, and then people will think of this as a budget or cheap card, and then it will eventually start to get outstretched. Okay, so Lord of the Extinction. This is another card that just had really, really low supply, and 2,673 decks is not something that is really exciting. This is one that I was very surprised they didn't downshift, because there's a lot of cards that are very similar to this that they even downshifted from rare. So I'm thinking of Consuming Aberration. Consuming Aberration has probably the same power level of Lord of Extinction. However, Lord of Extinction is a mythic, and Consuming Aberration was already dumped down from rare to uncommon. Power and toughness is equal to number of cards in all graveyards? Sure. Yeah, it's a very huge card in Commander, but there's a ton of cards that do very similar things. There's a card that reads all creatures on the battlefield. There's another card that, I believe there's a one that reads all creatures in graveyards. It's now a common or an uncommon, a zombie that does that. And so there's nothing too special with Lord of Extinction. It's still a card that has to connect. You can find plenty of other Voltron type cards that can just one-shot opponents. It isn't something that's very special anymore. Yes, it's fun to Rite of Consumption, a Lord of Extinction. Yeah, it has some janky little combos, of course, for EDH, but again, it's nothing too special. This is the Mythic that's going to hit really hard. This is, if we go back over to the Iconic, if we go back over to like Iconic Masters and see a Mythic that really bottomed out, I think that's going to be the way that the Lord of Extinction goes. Let's see what the cheapest Mythic. The Necropotence down to $6. Is that the cheapest Mythic, actually? Wow, it held its value a little bit higher than Iconic Masters. I think Masters 25 has some really bad ones. Channel went all the way to 8. Oh, Urbrask. Yeah, Urbrask sees a lot more play. So it's definitely going to go under 3, in my opinion. Let's go over and look at what the Masters 25 did for some of these cards. And go over to Mythic. And again, I think that the supply is going to get injected into the system a lot quicker than this Prosh. Yeah, I think this would be Prosh level of card. Lord of Extinction is going to go like Okrama. Yeah, underneath this. Funny that Trio Redemption was the Mythic that nobody wanted to open. It's actually had one of the best recoveries in Masters 25, believe it or not. A lot of it had to do with the Arcades out of the M set, and that being an auto-include in that deck. So anyway, that's kind of the Mythics currently that are over, or the cards that are over $10. Last but definitely least, Temporal Manipulation. Of course, this probably saw a very, very few play just because of its obscene price tag. Commander does tend to be both a budget and a non-budget. Of course, you're going to have people that go all out and foil their decks, but there are a lot of people that play Commander that aren't interested in paying for a lot of cards. You can see that this is just, it's just your run-of-the-mill take an extra turn. Now, in EDH, it is more powerful than a lot of take extra turns that exile themselves, because then you can get some shenanigans out of the graveyard. But 2,000 is not a significant amount. It was just because it was out of a set that had very, very low supply. This is not a $70 card. This is Temporal Manipulation. Yes, people are going to price memory it, but it is, these are other cards that had low supply here. Doomsday, I don't believe, did Doomsday have a lot of supply before it was reprinted in Masters 25? Was there, maybe I'm thinking wrong about Doomsday. Just Amonkhet Invocation. Okay, it was 6th edition in Weatherlight. But it's gonna be one of these that I just don't. Animar Soul of Elements. That was an early commander card that went all the way up to $30. And of course, when it got reprinted, this is what happened. So this is Temporal Manipulation that's going to happen. Yeah. I don't think it can hold its value. So that's kind of my overview. I know this is kind of a long video, but wow, probably my longest video I've had on this channel, with the overview of kind of the EDH cards from the Masters 25, or excuse me, from Ultimate Masters. Apologize, I'm over the place with this video. Like I said, I'm running around with like a chicken with his head cut off. We'll get back to the edited videos, the rogue roundups, the things you subscribe for this channel. Just wanted to get a video out there and tell everyone I'm fine. I'm doing okay. I haven't forgotten about the channel. We're going to ramp it back up when there's more content with finances. You saw we've been in a really, really stagnant, dull, dud area for a while with Magic the Gathering Finance. I'll do some recap videos. I think a lot of people like those with how our specs actually turned out. We did very, very well for Standard. I think there weren't many cards that I wasn't able to be ahead of the trends with, so I'm hoping that people actually capitalized on that, and I hope you actually already sold out. So I personally sold out of all my Standard specs. Arclight Phoenixes I got out at about $20 a piece. History Banalities got out about $20 a piece as well. Didn't even wait for that last $5. Lyra Dawnbringers got out. Arclight, the Rekindling Phoenixes got out. And so, there's you have to stay on top of the finance game, and hopefully I'm going to find some new tips and tricks for everyone to stay ahead of that game, and talk about some of the topics that a lot of people like to avoid, like, when everyone likes to talk about the what, but there's also a when, where, and why. And those are also very, very important. And we'll get to those answers in the future for this Rogue Market channel. Anyway, everyone, thanks for subscribing. We hit that 1,000 subscriber level, I'm going to try to do a 1,000 subscriber Q&A. So if you have any questions for me personally, definitely put them in the comment section here, as well as you can find me on Twitter, or you can @ me on Twitter. Twitter is @RogueDeckBuild for any finance related questions for my 1,000 Q&A. Let's try to hit 2,000 Q&A. We're almost at the monetized level, so that should motivate me to get my extra, 10 or 15 bucks that YouTube ad revenue will generate per month for a channel this size, but it'll at least motivate me to do more videos. And this is a topic that I do like the most. I've been having fun brewing decks in Standard. I'm sure I can get bored of it, and we're going to be back to Finance Focus Kevin. Anyway, this has been Kevin with the Rogue Market. Thanks for watching.